Alright, hope everyone's just fine and dandy. I'm just gonna get into it right now. This is gonna be an update for everything I've done to this thing so far up to this point, and issues I still have that some of them I'm gonna ignore for the time being, and some of them I will eventually address and fix. Try and follow along a little bit, because I'm going to sort of edit this in a weird way, so it's going to be probably long, but as of, November, today is November the 11th of 2018, this is how it sits right now. There's still no front bumper on it because I have brackets, or reinforcement brackets I got to put on because of the driver's side spot down there is weak. We'll get into that later, but for right now I'm gonna start it up, back it outside, and then we're gonna sort of go over everything I've done to it so far, and then the issues I have, and then future plans of this thing. What's the whole purpose of this vehicle? That's what it's gonna be about. So alright. I might have, since I've got it registered and insured, I've probably put maybe 100 miles on the thing. 200 miles. I haven't been driving it much because technically it's illegal to drive without a front bumper. So this is one of those, the camera's kind of like, this is one of them weird issues. It sometimes likes to stumble on startup, but once it warms up it's fine. So, maybe you can hear that. It's kind of sort of stumbling, not exactly. Probably because I haven't been driving it much and it hasn't really relearned a lot of stuff since I wiped the keep alive memory. So far in the interior, I've only done a few things. Ripped the carpet out. As you can see, it's already dirty down there. Put new speakers in both doors. And the speakers back there have been replaced. If you see the headliner like that, that's because it was falling down and I quickly staple gunned it up there. That's all staples. Yes, I stapled the headliner up there. Because one, I don't care, and two, it was really annoying it hanging down on my head. So, there's that. So, that's pretty much all that's been done in here, other than the carpet's been ripped out, speaker's been replaced, stereo's been changed to some waterproof boat stereo, literally $30 off Amazon. And this switch panel, 10 bucks off of eBay from some guy who makes a lot of like switch panel stuff for Cherokees out of that 3D printed plastic, which this is. Right now they are wired up to the key switch. They are not wired to anything at this moment in time. Eventually I will wire them. They're all off the same power wire from the fuse box down there, so they only work with the key on. If you leave that on and shut the key off, it turns off. And each one of these wires is grounded for the LED light to turn on. And then there's 6 wires that are right underneath there with a connector that eventually will be connected in. So that's pretty much the interior. Everything I've done to the interior. So now I'm going to go through and sort of do a voiceover of everything I've done on the outside. So as this Jeep sits now, it is sitting on a Iron Rock off-road 3-inch premium short arm kit. The only thing that's different from the kit I have on here into the one I show now is the rear leaf spring shackle is now added to that kit, whereas I don't have that. So as it looks, it is 3 inches of lift, probably more like 3.5 in the back for the shackle setup I have. So everything you see here came with the 3-inch premium Iron Rock off-road short arm kit. Aside from the heavy duty tie rod end, the steering stabilizer, and the built axle you see. The built axle is a Dana 30 from East Coast Gear Supply with 410s and a true track in it. This axle is built for jumping, so it should not bend in any way, shape, or form. I probably spent the most amount of money on that axle compared to the rest of the Jeep. So, as you see, so the only two things that are from the 3-inch premium kit are the add-a leaf and the leaf springs and the shocks. Everything else was put on here for the Ford 88 swap, which I'll go over in another video, more than likely called Everything You Need to Know About a Ford 88 Swap into an XJ. That is an Ironman 4x4 fab shackle relocation. That is an Iron Rock off-road gas tank skid plate. EAG bumper. My exhaust modifications to go around the Ironman 4x4 relocation shackle. And this is just showing how it is right now. Like I said, I will go over in another video everything about the Ford 88 in an XJ. There's the T-Case drop-down spacers, and that's majority of it. Now I'm just going to go over with pictures of everything else I put on it and sort of explain why I went with stuff. So in this picture, the front of the Jeep, you can kind of see through the grill there, the stock trans cooler is gone, and I put in a trans cooler that was off my Ranger that is slightly bigger than the stock one, but not as big as the one I put in the Ranger. So it works, and it was cheap because I kept it from the old truck. So that's what I have there. As you can see, the headlights are some LED headlights, which I'll give you a closer shot of it. So here are the headlights. They are a pair off Amazon for like 90 bucks. They're not bad. They actually do brighten up the roadway way more than the stock headlights, which were really bad. So to me, I like them. I've changed out both front wheel bearings because they sounded like a fighter plane coming after me. And they both had 190,000 miles on it. So now we're going to go over the things I've done in the engine bay. First of which, I put a new battery in because I killed the last one and the battery originally in it was junk. Next that was changed in the engine bay was the engine mounts, because the old ones would make the engine flop around like a dead fish out of water. Not a dead fish, a live fish out of water. You get the point. Next here we have a fuel pressure gauge I put in line with the fuel inlet line, just because the new fuel rail did not have a test port. Next up is the transmission mount. The old one was junk, so I upgraded to this heavy duty one. The only thing I don't like about this one was the holes were off, so I had to adjust the holes to make it fit. Not really happy with it. Next is the upper rear axle shock mount. Now, if you know these Jeeps, the shock mount bolts break off inside them, and the shock mount on the body is quite garbage. So, being that for some reason my shocks that I got were too long, I just found this. I forget who sells it. I'll probably put a link in the description. But it's a replacement for the upper shock mounts, but it extends the upper shock mounts so you can run a longer shock. It's also act as a cross member, and it doesn't really take up that much space in the back. and all you have to do is cut 2 holes in the floor where the shock mount used to be, and it just moves it up further. My only complaint about the whole thing is that the bolts that he gives you for the shock are grade 5 and not grade 8. I wish it was grade 8, so that's the only thing that I wish it had. And as you can see, it's also welded and U-bolted to the body. The last thing here is the quarter panels on this Jeep were rotted away, had holes in them, so I cut them out and put in place of these like body armor quarter panels just to so it's not as ugly. That's literally the reason I put them there, is just so it's not as ugly. They're cut and a little bit pushed forward compared to what they were supposed to be at, but that was so it can clear the bumper there. The last thing here is the rear bumper. It's an Amazon EAG bumper. It was like $350. It's not bad. It's spaced out a little bit from the body because of the side quarter shields, but for the money, it's not a bad bumper. And that's basically it for everything on the Jeep. So after just editing this video, I'm probably just not even going to go over the issues or the plans of this vehicle in this video. It just make it way too long. They'll both be in their separate video when I can get to them. This is just going to be what I've done to the Jeep so far. I will say the main issue right now I have to deal with is the ungodly awful noise that comes from the transfer case when you let off, either in 2-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive without the front drive shaft. There's something wrong and it clunks in drive from the transfer case. I believe it's from the transfer case, but that's my main issue right now. But that's pretty much everything I've done to the Jeep up to this point. I will go over more in depth of the issue in another video of all the issues. There's a couple other ones that are not a big problem right now. I will deal with them later. But that's it. So, see you in the next one.